is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Dark Tower, Book 7, The Dark Tower, Part 2, Chapter 12, The Tet Breaks. In this chapter, alright, I still don't know if I'm buying it. I think I'm gonna keep the receipt. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Wait, I thought you got the receipt after you buy it.
Well, you hold on to the receipt so you can return it.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting here, like, looking at the thing that I got on impulse.
Right.
And I'm sort of like, well, I'm going to take it home, walk around.
You weren't sure you were going to buy it, and the salesman convinced you.
Yeah.
And now you're rethinking it.
The salesman convinced me, and I kind of was like, well, you know, I'm kind of tired of this guy standing here, being real aggressive, and I really do need to get home anyway, so I guess I'll just buy it because I know that I can just, like, come back tomorrow when he's not here if I need to. Just trying to humor the good man.
So, just so everyone knows, and I'd love to share the screenshot I have of this at some point, which I might do in the spoiler chat or elsewhere. So, after we recorded last week, almost immediately, I got a text from Natasha that said, I fucking knew it!
This motherfucker isn't dead!
Wait, hold on, I think I have it right here. Yeah. This motherfucker ain't even dead, I knew it, all caps. Eddie's dying, said the first very wrong voice of a liar.
I forgot about that, because if you guys haven't reread this in a while, that might, out of context, not make any sense. But the next chapter begins with, Eddie's dying, said the first voice, the one that used to assure him there were monsters in his closet and soon they would emerge to eat him alive. No, denied the second voice, the one that used to assure him feebly that there were no such things as monsters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was saying his voice was very wrong.
And then finally, the quote from the book: "He's got a hole the size of a fist through his head." And then the rest of this in all caps: "And yet, and fucking yet, King, you goddamn coward."
Well, I felt a way about it. What can I say?
So, do you feel any differently now when it definitely seems like he's dead for real?
I really want to believe it. I felt like it was very well written. His death scene was, like, moving, and Susannah's handling of everything felt so in character, and like combo of she needs to have her time, but she's also trying to be compassionate and recognize that they care about him too, but she's also like, yeah, but you need to go because this is my deal right now. And I really sympathize with that kind of like mixed up in your head thinking about something where you're trying to simultaneously be compassionate to people and also be like, but holy shit, I'm about to lose my fucking shit on you in a second, so you need to walk away. So I really liked that.
I love the bit where, like, Jake is afraid that he'll be, like, the last one to touch Eddie and then he'll die and Susannah will blame him.
Yep.
Like, that felt really real.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite moment in the chapter is when Susannah tells the Breakers to stop, like, calming her down psychically and to just let her live with and experience the grief that she's feeling because she wants to just, like, breathe it in.
Yeah, that... Honestly, it really bothered me when they started to do that to her.
Yeah.
And I was glad that she was just like, hey, this isn't yours. You better not. Mm-hmm. 'Cause that's actually there's a line kind of like that in Westworld, where someone is given the option to kind of have their grief taken away from them. And they say, this pain is all I have left of them. Mm-hmm. Like, if you take this, you're taking them away from me, you know?
Yeah.
Which is just not fair and not your choice to make. So stop.
It's kind of like the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind problem, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, would you rather remember and be in pain, or would you rather have not remember and have nothing?
Yeah,
you know. So I really like that. I like this chapter as a whole. I think it's a really good. Going off the assumption for now that Eddie is actually dead,
right? Yeah, I'll go with that for now.
I think it's a decent send-off for him. I was really upset, you know, upon first reading, and like reading it again kind of re-upset me. But I like that the explanation for why he isn't just straight up dead is because he's fucking Eddie and he just fights everything.
Yeah.
Like, that really rang true for me. And I love the moment at the end where he comes back to himself and, like, talks to each of them. It's just, if you're gonna kill him off, I am okay with this.
Right.
I would have liked him to have a, you know, somewhat grander exit from the story if this is indeed the end of him in the story. But I'm fine with it. This chapter made it way more okay than I was feeling before I got here.
Yeah, oh, you know what? I'm Natasha, everyone. Hi.
Oh, hi, and I'm Miles. I've read these books before, in case you hadn't gleaned that.
I haven't. But yeah, I think that, you know, if it turns out that he really is dead, if I can actually trust this, I'm going to really have wished that I wasn't experiencing the doubt while I read this chapter that I was, because I feel like that really weighed it down for me, and it's a shame because it deserved better than that if this turns out to actually be true. But, you know, I'm trying as much as I can to just sort of hold that in limbo and try and appreciate this for what it seems to be on the surface, despite the constant reminder of Shimi's foot every page or so.
Which is so weird. It's like, we're going to have a lot of good things to say about this chapter. There's a lot of good things about this chapter. The thing in Shimi's foot is bizarre. It's like, you've already set up a reason for him to die.
Yep.
Like, quickly and or instantly as soon as he does a thing that we know he's going to do. Why does he need the foot? Like, it says things like, oh, well, none of them noticed that he was walking with a limp. It's like, yeah, and if he hadn't been walking with a limp, they still would have noticed, and he still would have died, probably, after teleporting too many times.
Yeah, and he goes out of his way to be like, and when, you know, nobody thought about such and such because if he was going to die, it was going to be through one last teleport, right? And I was just what are you doing, dude? But I don't know, whatever.
I don't know.
I have that feeling all the time, though. It's just, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
So, we start this chapter off with Jake. And in fact, we spend most of the time with Jake in this chapter.
Yes.
Which I think is a really, really good decision.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I don't want... Like, it's almost like I feel the same way as the other characters. Like, I don't need to be with Susannah right now. Like, that's her moment. That's her space.
Susannah, like, there's only one thing that's going to be going on in her head right now.
Yeah.
There's no way for her to have the capacity at this moment to be listening or paying attention to other things going on. So it would just be kind of pointless to be in her head at the moment, to be honest. And also, Jake hasn't experienced this particular kind of loss before. So I feel like being in his head is important because it's so fresh and different and weird and more painful for him in a way that it's going to be sharper writing from his perspective than Roland's, who is all like, he's got to be all muddled up with a combination of, like, I've seen him die before because I kind of think that maybe he's Cuthbert. And I predicted him dying because I felt like this was coming the whole time. And I don't want him to die, but I'm willing to make this sacrifice for what I want. And I knew that from the start. And I don't know what that says about me, but that's the truth. And it would start to become really self-centered, I think, if we were seeing it from Roland's perspective. Whereas with Jake, it's like he's so empathetic to everyone around him that it manages to be from his point of view and still focus on everybody else.
Yeah, I think Jake's perspective really puts us in the mindset where King wants us to be for this. Mm-hmm. Because Jake is the one who, you know, he's the youngest one. He still kind of thinks about things childishly. Mm-hmm. He's closest to the reader in terms of, like, he thinks about this as, like, a cool thing that he doesn't want to be over.
Right.
You know? And, like, of course he mourns for Eddie, but he doesn't mourn for her the way Susannah... He doesn't mourn for him the way Susannah does. And, like, Roland has seen all this before and was kind of expecting it and gearing himself up for it, whereas with Jake, like, he's got that innocence. A part of him thinks this was going to last forever. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's...
And not just last forever, but that he probably felt invincible because of being part of the test. So...
Sure.
Seeing him die. Oh, I can die. Oh, wait, what?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a really excellent choice to be with Jake for the majority of this. He's in denial. Mm-hmm. You know, like, pretty hardcore. And we get some flashbacks to what happened right at the very end as Jake is kind of sitting outside Eddie's room where Eddie's kind of been bedded down and bandaged up and is, like, feverishly talking nonsense under his breath.
Yeah.
And is very clearly, you know, they say, you know, that he's dying. Ted says there's nothing we can do. And while Jake is pondering this, we get the flashback to what happened immediately after Eddie was shot, which is that Susannah went crazy and Shimi was walking around talking about the beam.
Oh, Shimi. Bless him. He's just, like, so excited because the beam is happy. So he's just out there yelling about how the beam says it's great. It's better. And everybody's like, yeah, Shimi, you know, I appreciate your enthusiasm and everything, but our friend's dead over here. Can you not be smiling broadly and shouting?
Yeah.
It'd be great if you just, you know, keep it down.
Couple of things I found interesting when Susannah first started freaking out. She tries to turn Eddie over, and Roland stops her, saying, "You mustn't do that, Susannah. You mustn't disturb him." Mm-hmm. Which, I don't know if that's, like, an acceptance of death and, like, a spiritual thing, or if it's like, hey, if there's any chance that he might still be alive, like, don't touch him.
That's what I kind of thought it was the he isn't quite gone yet, and doing that, it's just gonna be what sends him over the edge. Like, moving him will cause his brain matter to just pour out of the back of his head or something like that.
Yeah, right.
That was how I interpreted it. But, like, you know, Lord only knows, because he says something to Jake at the end. Watch out for Danilo? What is it he says? Dandolo. Or
Dondolo, however you want to say it. I kind of like Dondolo, but...
And I'm like, you know, he seemed connected to something when he said that. So it might have been that Roland was like, hey, don't disturb him because he's tuning into something. And maybe that's another reason why we couldn't be in Roland's head, because he knew something else that Jake doesn't know. And we aren't allowed to, like, see that yet. But if all he knows is to be aware of Dondolo, it's not super useful, so I don't know if it was worth it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
It's just a word that means nothing to us at the moment, so...
It's a weird thing. I was also interested in Susannah Indetta briefly coming out.
Yeah, I like that.
And saying, let me do my voodoo on him.
Yeah!
Which is like, can you really? No, you can't, but maybe you could.
This is something that, initially, I'm like, really, King? You're going to have the black character talk about doing voodoo? Is this really the direction you want to go with it? And then I was like, yeah, but, like, maybe, though.
Yeah. Like, if somebody here did know it.
Yeah, I'd be like,
it would be
maybe if you're going to do it, maybe go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. No.
Not that we see. The voodoo might be in the burial. We don't know. I don't know how voodoo works.
Voodoo occurs, although I'm sure Natasha's now convinced that voodoo will occur.
It's like some Black Panther shit where you have to, like, bury him and then he goes to see his ancestors and...
Right.
You know.
God, Black Panther's good.
It's
I
so
want to
good.
watch that movie right now. Why am I not watching Black Panther right now? So upset about this. This is when Ted and Dinky start to calm her down.
Right.
Against her will. And she has words about that.
Yeah, I just, it's very presumptuous, and I get that they're doing this because initially she's just flipping out. But I could let that slide in the immediate, like, what's the word? Follow up to her really starting to, like, fight Roland, kind of.
Right.
But when she starts to get upset and they do it again, then I was like, all right, guys, there is a point where, like, people just need to feel things, and that's fine. So yeah, I really appreciated her saying something to them about that.
Also, Ted is being weirdly creepy at her. I don't know.
What does he do?
Huh? He just he calls her Dearheart, and then he calls her Love.
Oh, I didn't really see it that way.
It weirds me out. Like, if I was comforting somebody, like, who I had just met a few days ago, because their husband was dead, I probably wouldn't use that exact terminology. I don't know. There's a lot of, again, like, I don't want to get a whole other tangent about, like, the lack of consistency between these books, but in this book in particular, there's a lot of deers being thrown around.
I noticed that also. The deers
like
in particular were ones that I was like, what's going on here?
It's just words that are affectionate that I don't think they're out of place. I mean, later, like when he says it to Eddie, like, it's fine. I don't mind that. Like, I buy their relationship. It's just weird that, like, these, again, and this book is the one where all these kind of sappier, I guess.
Yeah, more tender.
Yeah. Like, slightly more intimate, like,
yeah,
designations of people are coming out. And when Ted does it to her, I'm like, what the fuck? You don't even know anybody here.
I guess I interpreted it as him doing that to strengthen whatever he was trying to do to her.
I mean, I guess that makes that even creepier.
Yeah,
to me.
I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah, she says, "You mustn't use your good mind to steal my grief, for I'd open my mouth and drink it to the dregs, every drop." Mm-hmm. And they're like, "Well, when you need us, we'll be around."
Right.
She's like, "Yeah, that's nice."
I love her so much sometimes, I swear to God.
I know. And Shimi talks to Roland later about doing the teleport thing. Mm-hmm. And he and Jake, Roland and Jake, that is, go and find, like, the other guards that got away from the massacre.
Right.
And Roland tells them that they basically just have to, like, walk away.
Yeah, that whole scene, I really liked the way this went. Like, my favorite part is always when retiring, very careful to be compassionate Jake starts to lose his fucking shit on people.
Yeah.
Like, when I see him get mad that way, it just delights me because it's so... when it happens, other than the time where he almost flipped out on that guy for running over Oi, where, like, I get him being upset, but also, like, holy shit, dude, maybe just take it down, like, several notches. I always feel like, yeah, you know what? Like, maybe if Jake is this pissed, that means something. maybe take that pretty seriously, you know?
Yeah. Now, I feel like you're jumping ahead a little bit to when he's talking to the Breakers.
You're right.
But let's just... You want to just go there? Because, like, I love that fucking scene. Because, like, whatever, he rounds up a bunch of Tahine and lets them go, and they leave. It's fine. One of them has a rooster head. It's great. But later, when he's talking to the Breakers, and I think this is after Eddie has died.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah.
So, they're just in no mood, and yet Jake, like... His hand keeps going to his gun.
Oh my god,
because
he is a step away, my friends.
Because the Breakers are like, you guys, like, gotta fix this because you took away our stuff. Like, people were taking care of us, and now nobody's going to, and now we're just, like, really mad at you.
Like, honestly, read the room, guys. Do you see that these, like, two people are the only ones that even seem to be carrying weapons, and everybody is dead?
Everybody is dead.
How about you think about what that fucking means and back up off them now, you psycho, death wish having, brain dead. You've been eating children's brains, and yet you haven't got any fucking common sense.
Sorry about the bark. My dog is in the room.
Your dog, sure.
Of necessity. Shut up.
Miles barks when he disagrees with me. It's fine.
I do the Jabari thing. Ho 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 ho.
That was pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. That's not as good as Winston Duke because nothing
never
really is as good as Winston Duke.
Never. That man. Oh, listen, guys, just go watch Black Panther, please.
I was talking to this is not explicitly Panther related, but I was talking about actors earlier with some people, and we were like trying to cast. I think we were trying to cast Dr. Doom, like who would be a good Dr. Doom. Mm-hmm. And I said, and I was like, well, I just go with Idris Elba. But to be fair, I think Idris Elba should play everyone.
Yeah, that's like, actually...
He's just the first person that comes to mind in any casting conversation.
When we went to lunch today with Owen's friend, we were talking about how I was recording Dark Tower tonight, and Owen said something about how his friend is the only person he's talked to who even liked that movie, because Chase, if you're listening, you're a good man, but you have very bad taste. It's fine. But... Yeah, then he
Chase,
kind of
if you disagree with Owen, I suspect you have very good taste.
Well, it's weird. The two of them are like best friends. Like he's going to be Owen's best man, but they have almost opposite tastes in a lot of things. It's really kind of funny. But yeah, he said he kind of corrected when Owen was like, "You're the only one I know who's liked that movie," and he was like, "All right, well, to be fair, I just like Idris Elba being a gunslinger. That's really what I liked." And I was like, you know what? All right, sir. I'm not even mad at you. Yeah.
That's fair.
So.
I was watching the Jungle Book remake, and I was like, holy shit, that tiger has the best voice ever.
I need to watch that.
Because that tiger was Idris Elba. It's really good.
I've heard that, but Owen has no interest, so if I watch it, I have to do it without him.
Well, it's on Netflix, but yeah, I strongly recommend it because it's damn good. Anyway, so the Breakers are assholes. They're just like really. Not only are they not grateful, but they're like resentful. They're actively resentful. And Jake is just like he is not here for it.
Yeah, Jake he's in that headspace that. You because he says somebody asked, can't you understand that they were treated like they mattered here and they didn't matter back in their own worlds, and now that's been taken away? And he says, no, I don't understand. And he thinks to himself, or maybe he just didn't want to understand.
Yeah.
And I like this. I really, really felt that moment because that's how it's been for me over the past couple of years with everything that's been going on in our country, is these moments of just like, okay, if I twist my brain into a fucking pretzel, I can see where you're coming from, but it's so fundamentally fucking wrong that I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. Like, you can go fuck 1,000 cactuses because just everything about where you're coming from is so wrong. So trying to, like, even though in my kind of rational mind, I can force myself to see it. If somebody asks me, do you get it? I'm not going to say yes, because it really doesn't, it still doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Even though you can kind of force your brain into that place, it still doesn't make fucking sense. So why are you going to give them the satisfaction of acting like their viewpoint is valid enough to be given a second thought?
I think, I think that, the kind of go-to response to that would be, well, we have to try and convince them and kind of talk them out of it. But, some people you're just not going to. Mm-hmm. And, I think that kind of voicing those things and like doing the brain twisting thing and trying to see things from other people's perspectives, and like even if it's really hard, I think it's a really important skill to have. That doesn't mean it's always worth doing. Yeah,
I think that's really. I feel like saying yes, I can see where you're coming from, lends things a certain amount of validity that it doesn't necessarily deserve, even if you can kind of see where somebody's coming from. It's just like, you don't get that. You don't get me to say that. No. So that was just this little kind of almost throwaway moment that I was like, no, yeah, dude, I feel you on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I don't know. Roland is addressing them, essentially. And he, like, keeps reaching his hand over to where Jake has his hand on his gun. Like, don't start shooting people.
I really did love that continually happening. Like, just,
it happens more than once.
It does. And it's just like every time he's just like, I wish that I could have seen his face. Like, cause I know he's just as angry as Jake is, but he's in more control of himself. But I just wanted to see like almost this exhaustion with like, put it away. Dude, we just put it, I just told you, put it away.
Right.
Oh, you took it out again. Dude, can you not? Like, getting really frustrated, even though that's not his character at all. I just amused myself thinking about that.
Yeah. And at one point it happens after some lady says, we didn't know what we were doing.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
And Jake's like, yes, you fucking did. And the implication is that if Roland hadn't been there, Jake would have started shooting right then and there.
Jake loses his shit for a second. And, like, I think I have a combo of feelings here because, Roland lets them walk away, which I think is a fair thing to do because they're in such shit circumstances that it's its own kind of punishment. And then afterwards, Ted says, I thought I told you that they weren't really to blame. I guess I didn't do a good job explaining it. And Roland says, no, you did. That's the reason they're still alive.
Yeah. Which is great.
And I like that answer a lot, but I also felt like, I wished that Roland had called him out a little bit more and been like, you explained it. I don't necessarily believe it. That's the thing.
Right.
But he just kind of lets it go with that's why they're still alive, which I guess is like almost saying that, but not enough. I really wanted a bit more of a confrontation here. Not necessarily that Roland's angry at Ted, but forcing Ted to see that these people aren't just like innocents either, because I feel like he wants to pretend that they got wrapped up in this thing completely without their intent, and they had to know something and they just didn't want to, and that's very different. And he doesn't seem to have come to terms with that.
He kind of has, like, he's talked about it in previous chapters. I think that Ted does get it. I just think he places a little more value on intent than Roland does, and he places a little more, I think they understand that the same thing is true, but for Ted, that truth absolves them more than it does for Roland.
Okay.
Like, because Ted is like, well, I understand. Ted was one of them, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, part of what he's thinking has got to be like, I wouldn't want, what would I have... If I wasn't me, if I hadn't actively participated in this rebellion and, like, facilitated it, made it happen, then, like, what kind of treatment would I like to be getting? Mm-hmm. How much forgiveness do I think I deserve? And I think that he sees Roland's speech to them as harsher than it needs to be. But for Roland, and I can't really disagree with Roland on this. For Roland, it's like, you fucking ate babies and tried to end the world.
And Ted's been given time to ruminate over how complicit he's been. He has some self-awareness around it. These people not only don't have it, but don't seem to want it. So right. I feel like it's easier to forgive Ted for his part in this, and easier to understand why he's trying to extend so much compassion toward them, because he's in their place, and Roland can see, well, you're not really in their place. You're in a different headspace where you're more willing to be honest with yourself, and they're not taking any responsibility at all. Yeah.
Yeah, you took responsibility, you took action. You actually helped end it.
Yep.
Like, yes, you were part of it, but you also helped to end it. And the fact that you tried to escape once before is probably a clue that you did know what was going on and you were trying to not do it anymore. Mm-hmm. So at the very least, you have that going for you. These people, and like, and it really seems like he's only saying it because we get a couple other characters like that Ted introduces them to here. Mm-hmm. Like the little girl that kisses Jake.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like Roland's talking to them.
No, definitely not.
It seems like Roland is talking to the people who don't understand that they have just been freed, mm-hmm. and that what they were doing had to stop. Like, even if they understand that what they were doing was bad, they would still have preferred to keep doing it and stay comfortable. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, what, Ted forgives him for that more than Roland does, and I think that's been established. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love that whole bit. Roland says basically, he's like, originally I was gonna send you all out of here to where the Kalas are, mm-hmm. send you on our way. I'm gonna blow this place up, and set you on the curse my father taught me. May you live long, but not in good health. Which is like.
Such a, like, it's one of those, like, really, I like that he says it's my grandfather taught me, or my father?
My father.
Because it does feel so old-fashioned in that, like, on the surface it sounds really tame, but then when you, like, really kind of break it apart and look at it, you're like, ooh, that's really harsh, actually,
Yeah. It is really harsh. It's like...
Have you watched Atlanta?
No.
We're watching, and there's this moment where this woman throws one of the most mean, like, threat/insult/curses I've ever heard, which is, I am going to see to it that you die homeless. Ha! Which is, like, maybe the harshest thing I've ever heard. It's just so, like, rough. It's just mean, and that's kind of, like... This feels like a tamer version of that a little bit. Like, it's phrased in such a way as to not be quite so harsh, but it sort of, in some ways, means the same thing. Just like, I want you to stay alive and live through terrible shit before you die. Enjoy that.
Yeah, it's basically what Roland says here is like a super condensed version of the To the Pain speech from Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, it's like, I want you to live, and every moment of your very long life, I want it to be hell.
I knew he was bluffing. That's what I said to fucking Stephen King.
Stephen King has declared this a duel to the pain to finish the rest of this book. But yeah, so instead of doing that, what Roland says is, I'm not going to blow it up with the bombs that we found in this cavern, randomly. Mm-hmm. I am going to leave it here and give you the choice of whether to stay here and be assholes, or go and find redemption, go to the Kalas, tell them what you did before they tell you what you did, mm-hmm. and beg for forgiveness. And let them put you to work in menial, sweaty hand labor for the rest of your lives, and, you know, and in that way you will maybe gain a little bit of atonement for what you've done. Or you can stay here and just be the worst people.
Yeah.
And is that better?
Which part? Staying here and being the worst people?
Is it the fact that he was going to take the choice away from them? He was going to blow it to shit. Mm-hmm. But now he says he's not going to do that. I'm going to let those who want to stay. Is that more of a punishment or less?
I think I wouldn't call it a punishment. I think that's kind of the point. It's not a punishment when they make their choice. It's a punishment when they have to live with whatever choice they've made. So he's being really smart in that he's like allowing them to choose their own fates, and he doesn't have to be held responsible for what that turns into. But I'm trying to find a comparison here. I think in terms of keeping his own hands clean and ensuring that they pick the most fitting path for themselves, I think it was a really smart move on his part. Because, like, we really do punish ourselves better than anybody else. And going and finding redemption and admitting what they did and living with that, while you might in your soul feel better, you're still, as he puts it, like gonna probably die having doing hard labor, basically. Yeah. You know? So it's still going to be really punishing in a very different way. But if they're too cowardly to go and face up to it, then they get to live in relative comfort with the guilt inside slowly creeping up and boiling over. And that's assuming that they're not a complete psychopath devoid of any empathy, which is certainly a possibility for some of them, I guess. Right.
And it's interesting. I guess I'm just kind of wondering why he changed his mind. Because what he says is, if you prefer purgatory to redemption, then stay here. Mm-hmm. If he had just blown it up and told them to leave and pointed them in a direction, I feel like it would be hard to find either purgatory or redemption. Because even if they do go to the Kalas and admit what they've done, like you said, it wouldn't have been their choice. Mm-hmm. So he's giving them the opportunity to choose that redemption, mm-hmm. which is what really makes it redemption. But he's also giving the opportunity to damn themselves, which they would not have had if he had blown up the prison. So it's interesting. I feel like it's just simultaneously like better and worse, you know. And I think he's giving them the chance to decide who they are in a way. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that doesn't happen unless he sees this resentment. Like, unless he really sees with his own eyes. Like, he was planning to blow it up because he just felt like that's what you do. Like, who's going to want to stay? Mm-hmm. Right? But then he saw these people, and they were like, oh, you fucking took away my sex robots. And he's like, holy shit, if you want to stay, then fucking do it, you dipshit. Mm-hmm. Fine. I won't blow it up. Like, I guess you are maybe that bad of people, so you stay here. And those who don't, you can prove that you're not. It's like he just kind of assumed at the beginning that the Breakers would be looking for that redemption and not looking to be like assholes. Which he was proven wrong about.
I think it is that he expected something and he didn't get it, but I also think that in his eyes that it will be giving people what they think they want can be worse than anything, which is why he calls it purgatory, because it's just going to purgatory is like, you go and wait for your judgment. So they are going to be prolonging the inevitable. They can stay here, but they eventually are going to have to, in one way or another, face what they've done. And I think he believes that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I think that for most people, that shit will catch up with you mentally. Mm-hmm. So I get what you're saying, but I think it was really smart, and I think it was probably the subtlest way that he could punish people while making it look like he's being somewhat merciful, and he's really not.
So like kind of a PR move.
I don't even know if it's that, because I don't think it matters to him that they like him and want to see him as merciful. I think he wants them to be fooled into thinking, oh, cool, I don't have to face it. And then it starts to eat them up. They think they're going to, quote, get away with it because nobody else is holding them accountable. And they don't have to be held accountable by anyone else because they're going to start to do it to themselves.
So he's setting a trap for the cowards.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know. That's an interesting interpretation. I'm not going to say you're wrong.
It really does, though. It does, in the end, depend on what kind of person they are. Like if you're somebody who manages to rationalize everything away and be in denial forever, you're never going to really experience that guilt. And all that remains is the hope that in the afterlife there's judgment. Mm-hmm. And, well, hopefully, good luck with that, But if you're relying on whether or not somebody is a decent human being who actually cares about other people when they're faced with the consequences of their actions, you just gotta hope that maybe they're human a little bit.
No, I like that. Let's cover Eddie's death scene real quick with what it deserves. I said this before, but I'm really happy he gets to be lucid for a few minutes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm fine with it. I just really wanted that moment. I like when Susannah tries to convince him at first that he's obviously going to be okay since he woke up. Mm-hmm. And he says, don't bullshit a bullshitter.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
And they get to kiss one more time, and he tells her that he'll wait for her in the clearing at the end of the path. Mm-hmm. And
Jake is like, and wait for me too, buddy. I'm like, Jake, leave.
Jake.
Just this isn't your time, buddy.
Get out of the bedroom, kid.
Please leave.
And yeah, he does a kind of a big brother thing with Jake. He's like, take care of Roland. Basically, he says, watch for Mordred, watch Dandolo. Whatever Dandolo is.
Yeah. Here we go, adding some more new shit. Eddie
didn't know how he knew what Dandolo was. He just knew.
Oh my god. Do you know that there was a second where I thought you were literally reading?
No.
I didn't, it took me a second to realize that you were just, joking around. Because that's just so... Yeah. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. And then, and Jake, is so upset that he has to leave the room. Or no, he leaves the room earlier. At this point, he actually does stay. Mm-hmm. He does stay when Eddie dies. And I love the bit with Roland. Never, ever had Roland seen an eye so bright, not even on Jericho Hill, when Cuthbert had bade him a laughing goodbye. And Eddie says, thank you for my second chance. Thank you, Father. And those are his last words.
Yeah, that's
until he comes
rough.
back.
Yeah, until his shambling corpse is reanimated via the power of voodoo.
Power of voodoo. Let's do this.
Of what you do. The power of Susannah.
What was that?
I was trying to do the, power of the babe. There's the power of voodoo.
Okay.
What you do. So, yeah, I thought that was a combo feelings. I like that being his last word. I feel like it was really moving. Also, really, Roland, you're going to come up in here and hijack his last words when Susannah's sitting right the fuck next to him? Come on.
Yeah,
I
felt weird about that too.
Come on.
I felt like, at least, can Jake be first?
Right?
Like, it felt weird that Susannah was the first person he said goodbye to. Like, I don't know. I mean, I get the Roland's the protagonist. Like, I understand why he did it that way. It does feel weird. I would have really expected Jake to be first and him to give him that cryptic shit. Mm-hmm. But I guess it flows well with the story. Or with the scene, rather. Because, like, obviously she's going to be the first one he talks to when he wakes up.
Right.
But yeah, I found that a little bit weird, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, it's not so bad that I, like, really even got caught up on it while I read it. I didn't think about it until just now when I realized, like, oh, that's his last word? That's a little bit unfair, but it's not such a big deal. I mean, as Jake says later, they wouldn't have met at all if it weren't for Roland. So there's a weird kind of dynamic there, It's a good observation that, like, if not for Roland, Eddie would never have died, but then again, they would never have met. Mm-hmm. Again, which would you prefer? Would you prefer having never met him? Yeah, well, eternal sunshine question.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Or would you prefer, it's almost like the, oh my god, did you ever see that shitty movie, The Butterfly Effect?
No.
With Ashton Kutcher?
Nope, I never did.
Oh, dude, it's so bad, but I love it. I loved it when I was younger. I love it still today. It's got Amy Smart in it, which is why I watched it.
Oh my god.
And I mean, you're never gonna watch it, right? I could spoil it.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, nobody's gonna want unspoiled The Butterfly Effect.
God, can you imagine though?
So The Butterfly Effect is a movie where Ashton Kutcher is in love with Amy Smart and has been since they were kids. But she gets, or like, I don't know, she has like a terrible life, and he discovers that he has the ability to go back in time and change things, mm-hmm. and then like snap back forward and experience the alternative universe that he created. So he keeps like fucking with shit, and finally he creates a timeline where she died, and he can't, and like he has to figure out how to fix it, but now she's dead, and so
job, guy.
He changes it. His solution is to change it so that, like, the very first time they meet as kids, he, like, tells her that she's a terrible person and makes her, like, leave crying, so they never become friends, and so, like, she lives.
I guess.
But, yeah, I guess in the original version of the story, like, the original cut of the movie, he, like, killed himself.
What? I mean, that makes a lot more sense, to be honest, though. Now that you say that, I'm like, well, actually...
Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of like that.
You keep fucking shit up. I guess you are the problem. So
exactly. I think that's what he realized.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a really bad movie and nobody should watch it. But if you do, let me know because I'd love to talk about it with you because I really like it for no reason. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of reminded me of that. It's like, oh well, we're never gonna meet, but she'll be alive.
Right.
So yeah, this is it's like I said before, like we said before, it's a really good death scene.
Yeah.
And if you can get over the fact that King's probably just fucking with you.
Yeah, like I think I've managed to get past, and when I say get past it, I don't mean that I believe that he's dead, because I really, like, if I'm being honest, I really still don't really believe it. But yeah, I think I can, like, appreciate this for what it was. This is something that King can when he, like, really puts his back into it, he can be really good with emotional writing. It's just like he kind of has to, like, get out of his own way a little. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like he overdoes it sometimes. Well, That's putting it very mildly, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Sorry.
But yeah, I feel like when he tries
blue.
to be a little bit, he tries to be manipulative, and this doesn't feel like it's manipulative to me. It feels pretty straightforward in the way that it's all told to us. And I think part of that, like you said, is not being in Susannah's head for it and just seeing from the outside how she's singing while she prepares his body and everything later.
Yeah.
Like these moments of, because that really is, oh man, I want to spoil something.
What do you want to spoil? What is it?
I'm going to be guesting on an episode of Buffy. In a few weeks. Spoilers for a 20-year-old show, guys.
Okay.
I don't think anybody listening to this is like, I don't think Chris listens to this show, Money. And I don't think anybody, but spoilers coming up probably for the next like 5-10 minutes. So if you really want to be unspoiled for certain parts of Buffy, I'm going to be talking about something that happens in season 5, episode 16. I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Because that's the one I'm
That was
guessing
precise.
on. Well, here, spoilers begin now. The episode is called The Body. Have you watched Buffy, Miles?
I have watched the first two seasons and a few episodes into the third. And then I've seen like patchy episodes from seasons 5, 6, and 7. I actually saw those first because I thought Buffy was stupid because I was an 18-year-old kid. And I was a boy, and I thought everything.
And to be fair, it is stupid a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure. But I got pretty into it for a little while. Like it was one of my favorite stories is that I was living with my friend Scott and his girlfriend, and there were like 5 of us in this 2-bedroom apartment for a while. This is when I was, obviously much younger, and me and Scott were playing video games on the couch, and Rachel comes home, and she just bought seasons 6 and 7 of Buffy on DVD. And she wants to watch them, so she makes us stop playing video games. And we're bitching and moaning about it as she puts on Buffy, because it's a dumb show and for girls, and we don't want to watch it. And she's like, well, you can fucking leave if you want to. And we're like, no, we're on the couch. We just
want to sit here and be assholes. What?
Yeah, exactly. So she starts putting it on, and like it doesn't take very, very long for us to be going like, oh man, this is so stupid. Wait, who's she? Wait, who's that guy? Oh shit,
Yeah.
So we like put on the next episode, man, right? So like, we kind of got into it that way. Later, I went back and watched it from the beginning. I binged it for a while, and when What's-His-Name comes back, spoilers, when What's-His-Name comes back in the beginning of season 3, I was really mad about it and stopped watching.
Okay.
So.
Well, all right.
Angel, is that his name?
Yeah, Angel's... Weirdly, on Buffy, he sucks. When he got his own show, he's great.
I've heard that. I found his return like almost like Eddie if he comes back, right? Like I found his return like a big betrayal.
Yeah, no, I
was
totally
like
feel
her entire season 2 arc was about figuring
out. All right,
out how
this isn't the Buffy show. Let me talk about the thing.
Sorry.
So, this episode, The Body, the very previous episode ends with Buffy coming home, bright and chirpy, having just had a really good day, and she walks in. Her mom's laying on the couch, and she's talking to her mom about, what she's done, and her mom doesn't reply to her. And she goes into the living room, and she's still talking, and then she stops and is like, Mom? Mom? Mommy? End of episode. And it's like the most horrifying fucking ending. Because here goes a show with tons of supernatural deaths, and her mother unexpectedly dies of an aneurysm. The most banal human way to die.
Oh, that's crazy. I knew that her mom died, but I didn't know how. I figured it was like a vampire or something.
Of course you assume that. And that's kind of what's so brilliant about it. So the next episode starts off, and she's standing exactly where she was standing at the end of the last episode. and her eyes are like that dry, tearless red where you're not ready to cry yet because you can't take in what is happening.
Sure.
And a second later, it hits her and she has to go vomit in the corner of the living room. And there's no music. All you hear are the wind chimes in the other room in the background. And it's dead quiet. The entire episode, all it is Buffy and her friends dealing with putting together the fucking funeral. There is no music in any scene at all. It's one of the most brilliant, moving pieces of television I have ever seen. And I have seen a lot. And there is something so cruel about losing someone that is super important to you and still having to live your life. Still having to get up and eat breakfast and talk to other people and sign papers about what to do with the body, which is why it's called that. Because she says to, I think it's Giles comes over and she says, no, they told us not to move the body. And then that's when she starts crying because she realizes she just called her mother the body in this like detached way that makes her feel sick to her stomach. And she just loses it. And that's finally when she starts to like panic. And this whole thing with watching Susannah coping and just doing for the moment what needs to be done. It's like I said, there's a cruelty in having to just continue on and have the pressure on you as the person most likely to have to figure out everything for the funeral. You are also most likely the person closest to the one who died. So you're experiencing the most profound, pointed grief. And you also have the most pressure on you to stay organized and like on top of things. It's just mean. At the same time, you need something to hold on to. And you need something to like keep you out of the headspace that you are going to get to eventually where you just start to lose it. And so there's this like temporary, okay, I'm focusing on the paperwork here. I'm focusing on making the phone calls. What were her favorite flowers again? All of this little minutia bullshit stuff that while it's like horrible that you have to do it, it's also the only thing that's keeping you from completely spinning off your axis into space. And so I really, really loved seeing that from the outside of her not just showing her love for him, doing what she's doing, but also using it in a way as a shield and a way to keep herself away from everyone else, I think, you know? And that's what winds up happening. Like, they go off without her in the end.
Yeah.
And that's 100% what you need. Yeah, leave me alone so that I can just completely crumble because you just have to. You can only hold it together so long.
A certain degree of kudos to Roland for realizing that.
Yeah.
Like, we can't ask her to come save Stephen King's life right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she definitely... There's a line before they leave her there to go off, and it's... she says goodbye to Jake, and it's a little bit perfunctory, like more so than it otherwise would have been. And the line is, Jake understood that she had little time for Jake Chambers or Jake Chambers' grief just now. Her own was too big.
Yeah.
And yeah, that got me pretty well. Again, like you said, when King does this, he does it right.
Yeah.
And she is, you can tell, like, and there are little moments too where, you know, and Roland even recognized it where it's like, okay, we haven't lost her. She's down in there somewhere. You know, the moment where she says something kind of like sarcastically with a little twist of a smile, and he's like, okay, we're good.
Right.
And then later, later when she says she doesn't care about the tower anymore, Jake knows that some part of her is lying about that. Mm-hmm. So it's like she's definitely still there, but she is, like you said, intentionally isolating herself, doing what she feels needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he tells Ted and Dinky and Shimi to, like, stay and help her with the burial. And I just get the feeling that, like, if she needs something done practically, then maybe. But aside from that, she's going to do it herself.
Yeah. I wouldn't... If I were her, I would not let anybody near him. Just right. Straight up.
Yeah, and there's also... Apparently there's also a slight chance that, like, some of the breakers might try to, like, string up his body.
Yeah, that was a weird thing to drop. Like, once she said it, I was sort of like... maybe she's right. But if that hadn't even entered my mind, and I'm still not 100% like in agreement that that's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just, I wish that there had been something to indicate why she thought that, because I didn't get the impression that she took the temperature of the rest of the people who were left the way that Jake and Roland had when they walked out around everyone.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I think she's probably thinking some pretty dark things about the fuckheads in this town right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
As well. But, you know, they did just, like... The end of it, there is the bit where Ted and all the breakers kind of acknowledge that, like, it was really... The breaking was great.
Right.
You know? And I think that she feels like, you know, having experienced this kind of shit before, it's like what happens when people's status and comfort are threatened by somebody else. You know, she kind of has her own opinions about it. Mm-hmm. But it's all going to be fine. They're going to... Jake and Roland are going off to save the writer, mm-hmm. which she sends a message for him, which is... tell him not to stop with his writing... Not come hell, high water, cancer, or gangrene of the dick. Never mind worrying about the Pulitzer Prize. Never mind worrying about the Pulitzer Prize neither. You tell him to go on and be done with his motherfucking story.
Yep. I really liked that a lot. I gotta be honest. Like, the way that she phrased the whole thing, the way that it's a weird, like, self-deprecating... King being like, I know, guys, I gotta finish my motherfucking story. Everybody calm down. Like, I just, there was a lot of layers of things happening there, and her anger, but also trying to, like, remain focused and understand that this is necessary, and that Eddie gave himself up for this, so I have to see it through, which really just makes so, like, that's the kind of thing that I always am moved by more than most things when it comes to deaths of characters, is a feeling of obligation afterward, that mm-hmm. I need to do something that I don't even really want to do because it meant so much to somebody else. And I know that the whole thing is that she really does want to.
Right.
But nevertheless, it's still like, there's a part, I think, that is obligation. And that seems like a lot to me. Like, just death is just so heavy anyway. And then to feel like you're taking something on due to that death, that's so much extra to deal with.
Well, yeah, I mean, also, what else is she going to do?
Yeah,
like,
go home?
You know, it's like...
How? Yeah.
Yeah, how and why?
And why?
And for what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so... She's going to meet him. Roland says they might be able to come back to the prison, or they might be able to go to Feddick.
Yeah.
So if they're in Feddick, she's going to take a train out there, because the trains are still running. And that's... So after that is when the thing with the confrontation with the breakers happen. Mm-hmm. And... The breakers get ready to send Jake and Roland off to the writer, because it's like the day before the day they need to be there. Mm-hmm. They went and checked. And we get kind of a sort of half sweet, half weird moment with him and this Danny Rostov girl, with Jake and this girl.
He can't resist talking about her small breasts. He just can't fucking stop himself.
I know.
What
is the line? Hold on, where is it? I want to find it now.
I highlighted it. Hold on, let me find it. Well, you might already be there.
I got it right here. Yeah. He felt the push of her tiny, hard breasts and would remember the sensation for the rest of his life.
Like, honestly, there comes a point, ladies and gentlemen. It's fine. Whatever, sure.
I'm just saying, first time I kissed a girl, it was the kiss that I remembered.
Not the small, hard breasts.
Yeah. Yeah, and... Yeah, also... I mean, God, I guess she's a preteen, but still, they can't be that hard, can they?
I found that to be a very bizarre thing to say.
It's like, yeah, like little pebbles or what? Like
this is part of what makes me so uncomfortable about Stephen King, is that he chooses words that make you think too hard about stuff you don't want to be thinking about in the first place. He puts my brain in places it shouldn't be, and I do not appreciate it, and I resent it.
Are her breasts hard because she's turned on? Because that's weird.
I don't think that's supposed to be it.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Anyway. Whatever. Aside from the small, hard breasts, it's kind of a sweet moment where it's a little bit of a, kind of, my hero thing, but, like, it's fine, I guess. Like, I don't know. She's one of the good breakers, and there's a cute boy with a gun, so sure, I guess. I don't know.
I find it a little extra creepy when she's doing this and she has her, like, Pooh Bear teddy bear.
Oh, yeah, like, that's weird. Like, how old is she?
And this is what I'm talking about, is that she's a small enough girl that she's got a teddy bear, and yet she's kissing this boy, and we're talking about her breasts. Like, King, can you just don't. Just ignore your impulse and just don't do it. But he can't not do it. He can't.
Don't talk about the breasts at all. Mm-hmm. And don't throw in a, like, blatant reminder that this is a child.
Yeah, if
you're gonna do the kissing thing.
It's is it really necessary for, like, the one young girl here to kiss Jake? Why do you need to even have that be a thing? There's been no connection between them that we've seen so far.
Part of me thinks the reason this was done was because Ted is there, and in the book that Ted originated in, the story specifically, Hearts in Atlantis, I think it was and that was the name of the book. I think that was the name of the story too. Hearts in Atlantis might be the name of a different story in that book. I don't remember. The point is, in Hearts in Atlantis, there's a story with Ted in it, and Ted had a little friend named Bobby who was a little kid, and who he compared Jake to earlier in this book. Like, thought he was seeing Bobby there for a second. And Bobby kind of getting his first kiss from a girl that he likes on, like, I think a roller coaster is kind of an important moment in that story. So I think this might have just been put in to echo that.
Okay.
But if so, I'm making the wanking motion right now, because that's kind of just how I feel about the whole linking all the universes thing, to be honest. I know that people love it. I know that it's cool, and, like, it makes it really fun to go back and, like, check it out and everything, but, like, there are parts of this where I'm just like, man, you didn't need to. You just did that because of the linking universes thing, didn't you? Fine, but I'm not into it. It's not for me.
I just, I've become more sensitive to the use of female characters in general, and King just doesn't seem to be able to include one without there being something like this going on with it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's one other woman who has, like, pancake makeup on that tries to get up in Roland's face.
Oh, yeah.
And other than that, those are, like, the only two females that we see here this whole time. and one of them has to kiss Jake and have this whole thing be like weirdly sexual, and it's just like
right. And the other one's pudgy and gets slapped around, or not slapped around, but like, you know,
intimidated.
Roland doesn't get out of the way.
Yeah. I really wish this is the thing that I think people don't necessarily understand about representation if they don't like, if they're not on the receiving end of it, is that when you don't have that much representation, and as a white woman, I have more than a lot of people, you have to be really good with the representation that you do have as a writer or, you know, whatever you're including. And I don't think King is. I think he tries his best. And I think maybe if he were to go back and look at some of this now, I would hope that he sees a little bit more clearly how like predictable some of what he does is. But I don't know that. I don't know where he is mentally with some of this stuff. And it's a really similar complaint to the book It that he wrote, where there is a crew of young kids. Out of like the 6 of them, there's one girl, and part of her, quote, power that she has is awakened by fucking them all. You know? Like,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Okay.
All of them at once.
That's a thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know, thankfully, none of the adaptations have tried to include that in the movie because God only knows what would even happen if they tried. But it's one of those things that I met a friend's boyfriend for the first time, and we started talking about it, and he like said something about that, and I like kind of snapped about her, and he was like, well, it's not really. And I was like, she's the one female character and her power lies in fucking. Shut up. And it was like the first time I'd ever met the guy, and I really bit his head off. But
does it feel to you like King writes more for a male audience than for a female audience? And I honestly don't know the answer, because I know how many women are fans of Stephen King, and like I know how many women are huge fans of this show, and I mean not necessarily me, but you at least, and the series that we're covering. But it does seem a lot like a lot of the stuff he does that I've read seems weirdly like boys stuff, and it's weird because like his first book was Carrie. But like, I don't know, Salem's Lot is kind of all about the dudes, and you know, Hearts of Atlantis is kind of like a dude story. You know, like it's about Vietnam and shit, and like
I see, and this is what I meant when I said I think he's doing his best. I don't think he's writing for men consciously. I think he's trying to be more inclusive. I really think he is. But I think that to a degree, people who, and I'm going to be really charitable here, but sometimes I think that's necessary. I think that people who were writing and creating art before the internet revolution happened were at a huge disadvantage because they were not exposed to as much thought and critique of art at large, and so they didn't understand how tropey certain things were and how problematic those tropes were and why. And the age that we live in now, where there's a podcast on every fucking television show that comes across the screen, we all are starting to really see the pattern so much more clearly because it's impossible to miss at a point. You know, like if you don't see it, that's on you. And that's why I'm trying to like hope that if today he were to come at writing this story, that he'd handle it differently. But I haven't read anything that he's written very recently, so I don't know that for sure. I just think that he was doing his best, and I think he really meant for certain things to be more empowering than they were, or he meant for certain female characters to be more like, for example, his wife in The Shining. Part of what he didn't like about the movie was that she is constantly screeching and sobbing. Mm-hmm. And that he wrote her as being much more savvy and self-possessed in the book. But the thing is that as much as he does do that, it's always, there's one woman like that. And he has no problem creating an array of men with different capabilities and different, but the women, there's always just like one, maybe two, and the one is really the like also sex object who's in a relationship or potentially in a relationship or whatever, and the second woman is usually much younger or much older and not in the running for the sexual role because of her age. And I don't think that he's writing for either men or women. I think he really is trying to write for all. But he's limited.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's
a fact of being a human being, is that you're going to have limitations to what you understand and see.
Yeah, I think that Susannah is probably one of the best examples of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, when he starts working on her in terms of, like, creating her character, it is, and I think we talked about this before, like, it's really clear how hard he's trying.
Mm-hmm.
He is trying to make her a fully fleshed out person with her own agency and her own ideas, and he does a really great job. And, like, to make her also, you know, handicapped and black,
mm-hmm.
like, he really works hard to craft this character and do it right. But even then, like, at a certain point, he just can't resist. He has to fucking do a pregnancy angle with her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like...
And that's what happens when you only have one woman.
Yeah.
You've put all of your female representation eggs in the one basket. So if he had 6 women and he made one of them get pregnant, it wouldn't feel like a complete tropey betrayal of everything, because there's a bunch of other interesting female characters. But when you've got
it's not
the
a woman getting pregnant, it's the woman getting pregnant. The woman character, yeah.
You know, it's like, it's just that, and that's the complaint with representation at large, is that when you just have one black person, one Asian person, one woman, and you have to be so fucking careful. And if you're not, you've completely shot it all to hell. That's the one chance you had. And the fact that he did have one woman, and he made her black, and he made her disabled. So it's 3 able-bodied white men.
Dudes. Straight white men.
And the woman is the one with the most life disadvantages against her. That also feels like he's putting 2 whole other sets of eggs in a basket that is not big enough to carry them all. He's got the ableism and racism thing piled up into also the feminism thing. That is a lot to try and put on one character and hope you handle it all correctly. Good luck, guy, you know? So,
yeah, it is. It's a big burden on that character, and you screw it up, you've kind of screwed it up for a bunch of different demographics that you were hoping to represent.
Yep.
So, anyway. Yeah, so, long story short, not really cool with the preteen kissing, but, you know, whatever. Right? I mean, it's fun.
It is what it is, as they say.
It is what it is, yeah. But yeah, so that happens, and then they go through the portal. And it is about almost 4 in the afternoon. They show up at the general store where Eddie and Roland showed up before. Mm-hmm. And the last words of the chapter, and indeed of part 2, are time was almost up.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like, because, you know, I had lost track of the fact that time is just going on, and they just have to, like, keep track of what's happening over there and hope to God that wherever they wind up, they're soon enough. Because there was a moment in my brain where I forgot that was how time was working in this universe. Mm-hmm. And I went, like, why don't they just go further back and make sure that he doesn't go on that walk in the first place? And then I was like, oh, right, they can't go back any further. It's going on without them, which is really smart. on King's part, because otherwise this whole thing would just be shot to hell. So I guess having a keystone timeline is what you have to do in that kind of case.
Gives us some stakes.
Yeah.
I have a question for you real quick, just to kind of bring this episode full circle and wrap it up.
Okay.
Because, and again, moving forward with the assumption that Eddie is actually dead.
Okay.
King built up to that a lot and kind of tried to make us guess which one of the Katet was going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember about this time reading the book, kind of really thinking about this, which is why I want to ask you about it now. So assuming for the moment that Eddie's actually dead.
Okay.
Do you think that more members of the Katet are going to die? If so, which ones and in which order? Impossible question to answer, but what's your feeling?
I really don't, if I'm being honest, I don't feel like anybody's in any danger. Because I still, and I understand what you're doing with assuming Eddie's dead, but I just can't get past my gut feeling that he's not, or that something's gonna... So that gut feeling still is no, nobody else is going to die either. And if it were to be, I would definitely think that's the one. He's the one of the Katet that was allowed to die. And I don't think King has the balls to kill another one. And
Fair
I would
enough.
like to say again, if I'm wrong, good. Because... not having stakes gets very tiresome. So yeah. I'm hoping I'm wrong, to be honest, but I guess we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
I would tell you what I thought, but I just have no idea. I just don't even know where to start with it.
Just because you're so full of shit.
Yeah.
You goddamn liar.
It's coming out my ears. It's actually really unpleasant.
Ew. Don't say that to me. Take it back.
I take it back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was something else that I wanted to bring up. Oh, you know what it was? Hold on. Let me pull this up because I meant to talk about this a couple weeks ago. David Kehoe, if you're listening, what's up?
What up, David?
Meant to bring up because he was talking about an interview that he saw where King said that he was interested in maybe rewriting this. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Because we were joking. I said something about how crazy would it be?
Yeah. Rewriting, the whole series?
I think it was the last couple books that he came back. Okay, let's see. Where is it? Okay, he says, on the most recent... This is David Kehoe. On the most recent Dark Tower episode, you guys joked about the idea of Stephen King rewriting the series and how crazy that idea is. He has actually talked about doing exactly that. Here's a quote from an interview. But I'd like to go back to all of them and revise the whole series because it's really one book. I'm delighted people loved them, but I think of those books as a rough first draft of a very long novel. I'd like to go back and rewrite them all.
Let me tell you, Stephen, they feel like a rough draft of a very long novel.
Yeah, they do.
So I don't think that's the worst idea you've ever had by a long shot.
And then David went on to say himself that he looks at the series as being 3 parts. The first book where King has this idea he likes, plays around, but has no idea what to do with it after he finished Gunslinger. Books 2, 3, and 4, he figured out what he should do with it. And the last 3 books is the post-accident stuff where he figured out how it should end. So you get ideas like the Breakers suddenly introduced in Book 5, where Roland abruptly drops a bunch of exposition and they suddenly have this new goal and motivation.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable way of looking at the series. Mm-hmm. Certainly, the Gunslinger does not, in and of itself, feel like part of anything. To the extent that I think that's one of the reasons that the revised version of that can be so jarring. Mm-hmm. It's because the Gunslinger doesn't feel like part of a series. The series really starts with drawing of the 3. Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that if you're looking at it that way, the second phase, books 2 through 4 are clearly the best novels in the series. Just, like, undeniably. And then I would put Gunslinger after that and say, like, that one is certainly interesting.
Oh, you know what I meant to bring up from Gunslinger?
What's that?
Anybody remember Roland doing an abortion with a pistol on a demon baby?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could have done that, guys. You know? Like, really?
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm sure there's some argument to be made about why that didn't happen and how that proves that, like, the demon baby shit didn't come out of nowhere, but honestly, I just wish he had been like, all right, Susannah, here's what we're gonna do.
I'm gonna get a gun, spread your legs, and I'm going to gunslinger the shit out of this demon baby. Okay.
Oh, God. Callahan would have been like, what are you doing?
God, can you imagine? Because I was just thinking the other day about, like, how different the whole vibe of the series becomes compared to the first book. And I was thinking about some of the weirder stuff that made me uncomfortable in the first book. And then I remembered that all of a sudden and really hating that. And all of a sudden I stopped and was like, motherfucker. I was so pissed when I realized.
Yeah, the first book is such a weird, like, fucking 70s novel.
It's like a fever dream in a lot of ways, you know? Which is fine. Like, in some ways, I think that's what works for it. But
oh, I totally agree. And I think that's what the sixth book has going for it, too, to a certain extent. But I definitely can see, like, dude, if you're going to rewrite it, then you've got a lot of work to do fixing this shit. Like, I just think you need to... God, maybe I shouldn't say anything until after we're done.
Okay, yeah. Don't keep it under wraps until then.
Yeah, but people who know my opinions about certain other parts of this book that we're reading will probably know some of the changes I would make. One of which would be, don't fucking kill Walter.
Oh my God. Yeah. I appreciate that there's been a few people who are like saying, like, listen, this series means a lot to me, but also that was some bullshit. Like, I'm not over it still. But yeah, so thank you, David, for messaging me about that. And I was just, in response to him, I just was like, and I see what you mean, David, about, like, the 3 parts, but it's just weird to me that no editors were like, hey, you're just dropping weird information, acting like Roland's known it the whole time, and we have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the weird... Like, I see your point, David, but to me it doesn't excuse anything.
I don't think I don't think David meant it to excuse... Because when I said that, he was like, oh, yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David's listening, going, hey, you're misrepresenting my argument. I'm sorry, David. I'm trying to be... Because he just was kind of positing, like, his idea and how he thinks about things. But I don't think that he was excusing it at all. And I think most people... don't, that I've talked to, like, even people who really love the series are often just kind of like, no, I see what you're saying.
David, I don't see your point, and I think you're just wrong. And if you say anything about it, I'm gonna Pillmanize you.
You're just kind of a bummer, man. You're wrong.
I'm gonna fucking Pillmanize you, and you know what that means, and nobody else does that listens to this probably, but you do.
It's a wrestling
so
thing,
don't do it. Yeah, it is.
Goddamn dorks. What a bunch of fucking nerds. Am I right, guys?
Oh, you are so right.
It's really something when the girl who has a podcast about a science fiction series is calling somebody else a nerd.
You have a podcast about, like, 10 science fiction series.
All right, well, I guess that's everything. So, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with this?
I just wanted to say that let's do just the one chapter again. We're gonna start next time with part 3, which is the part is called "In This Haze of Green and Gold," Veskagan, whatever that means. And the first chapter is called Mrs. Tassenbaum Drives South, and I think that will be the only chapter that we should cover next week.
Mrs. Tassenbaum Drives South.
That's correct.
Huh. Okay. So we're going to add some more new shit. Noted. All right. Cool. Well, let me say hi to new patrons.
Do it.
We have this week Miss Meck, Brittany Bringold, Ashlyn Wolf, Anjali Bucci, Andrew Morrison, Andrea Harper, Jason Brow, Mel C. Jason told me the correct way to say his last name, and I already forgot, but I think that he listens to Dresden Files, so I'll get it right for Dresden Files, Jason. Kate of the North, and Farah Joffrey all became patrons. So welcome to all of you guys. Delighted to have you. No, it's Jaffrey.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, I'm really excited. I've seen a little bit of an uptick recently, and that might be because Harry Potter is back. But welcome, and make sure to join the patrons only Facebook group. I'm so surprised by how many people become patrons without knowing that there's a patrons only Facebook group, because I always think that that's like part of the draw, but apparently a lot of people don't even know about it, and it's super fun, and you guys should all be in there. So if you're not, and you don't have the link should have been sent in the thank you message that you got when you signed up. But if you didn't get it, or if that link doesn't work, which for some people, for some reason it doesn't, just DM me on facebook.com/unspoiledpod. Just message me and ask for the link, and I'll hook you up. And there's also an off-topic group was started by David Kehoe. And that one is also very active. And there is a Discord chat. And the Discord chat is kind of nice because it's like divided up by show. So if you want something that is, specifically about one of the shows, there's an option for it with spoilers or without. And without spoilers means without spoilers beyond what the show has covered. So if you are truly 100% unspoiled for something, that's still not going to be safe for you. But if you're reading along with the show or watching along with the show, those no spoiler chats will be safe for you. So just, an FYI on that. Yeah. So I think that's all. Become a patron at patreon.com/unspoiled. And, just become our friend and be cool and hang out with us, and maybe go to a meetup. There's a Discord channel. Is that what it is? Yeah, channel. Where it's just the terminology, because I call the whole thing a channel, but it's a Discord server, and then the smaller things are channels on it. But there is one for people to say where they're from, because people are trying to meet up occasionally and make friends IRL. For
IRL,
yeah, IRL ASL ? But yeah, I met Leighton Sear for the first time this past week, who has been a long time listener, and she was in Texas visiting family, and we went out and had coffee because she was around. So people can be friends. It's a long life lesson for y'all.
Oh man, So I know what I just said, but I'm looking at these chapters again, Natasha.
You're gonna fuck me up. What? What?
I think you might get really upset with me if we only read the one chapter, because the next two chapters go really well together, but it'd be long, but
unreasonably long, or
no, not unreasonably, just long. It'd be in my book, they're a little over... The two chapters encompass a little over 60 pages. So that's not nothing.
It's up to you. It really is up to you.
Tonight's was 35. Shit.
I love how annoyed you are right now.
I'm really annoyed.
Tee.
Let me get back to you. Let's plan on one for now. Okay, fine.
Make a choice.
Fuck it, 2. We're doing 2.
All right.
We're doing 2. I'm deciding right now.
Screw it. We'll do it live.
Screw it! 2 chapters for the next one. Fuck it.
Everybody.
We're gonna cover all of part 3 in 2 episodes. Is what we're gonna do.
Oh my god! One of my favorite things is somebody who is putting their foot down on a decision, and you can hear that they could be swayed so easily just by a word. If I was like, well, maybe, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, you're right, maybe not. But I won't push you. I won't sway you because we need a decision to be made. So.
I just hate the way he divides this shit up. Like, really? That's where the chapter ends and that's where the other one starts? Oh, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, he can be like that. Teehee.
Yeah, well, let's just do 2 and it'll be a long episode. It's fine. It's fine.
You sound super fine with it.
It's like the divide between chapters 1 and 2 of this section feels less like a chapter divide and more like sections 1 and 2. You know, it feels like the little mini chapters inside the chapters. So, yeah, let's just do 2.
Okay.
But be prepared to read it because it'll be a decent amount.
Okay.
Give yourself time.
What he's saying is, you're going to be late. Don't be late.
Don't be too late.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. All right, sir, do your plugs.
All right, y'all go to www.mjschneiderman.com, mjschneiderman.com to find links to everything that I am doing and have done. That website still a work in progress because right now I'm slammed to the wall with work, which is great. But it also means that that still has a little bit of work to be done in it, so please don't have too high expectations of it. It also means that there's nothing up on universalthemind.com right now anymore since September. But still, moving on. So the Smash Fiction podcast is a thing that you can listen to. I'm assuming that you all enjoy podcasts and have access to the equipment required to experience them. So if you do that, again, I'm making an assumption here, then you should check out the Smash Fiction podcast where me and my friends, we have conversations and debates and make jokes and talk about sex, and it's all around the framework of who would win in fights between fictional characters. So go and check that out. The most recent episode is Crowley from Supernatural versus Crowley from Good Omens.
That's pretty fun.
That's a thing that's on the feed right now. It's very fun, very good episode, if I do say so myself. And keep an eye on their Smash Fiction feed, Dark Tower fans, because there may be something coming down the pike that you will enjoy. Maybe. Can't say anything about it, but because it's not even necessarily true. But it is. But maybe it's not. Also, you can listen to the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast, which is goes up every Friday, and that is the show that I host and produce based on a monthly live event here in Tucson, Arizona, where I currently reside. And, it's a fun podcast where people tell 10-minute stories about their lives, and we come out with full live shows once a month, and in between we just give you little 10-minute chunks of story. I mean, they're full stories, but they're just 10-minute stories that come out on a weekly basis. So check that out, subscribe, review, give all the love. Go to patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast if you want to support Smash Fiction. There's no reason for you to go to universesofthemind.com right now, but if you want to, go do it, I guess. That's a science fiction blog written by some guy who doesn't write about science fiction very much, apparently. I don't know who he is, but he seems like an asshole. I think that's about it.
You sure?
Pretty sure. I'll have more at some point, you know. You know me, I'll always have more eventually, and then things will go away. I'll plug something for an episode, and then I'll give up on it, so it'll go away. And I still fully intend to go back to the sci-fi blog at some point, which is why it still exists and why I still plug it. But it hasn't been updated in quite some time because I am fucking busy. So yeah. Sometime this summer, I expect that to be updated. So.
Okay. Well, everybody, tell me your thoughts. Send me your stories. I don't know what I meant by that. Don't tell me stories. I'm not reading them. But I want to hear how you all feel about the show so far. And I haven't checked about new reviews in a bit, so I will do that next week and see if anybody else has left a review. Hopefully y'all have been nice to me because, I have a giant ego that is about as fragile as glass. So be nice to me, you dicks.
It's like one of those really big fish bowls.
Yeah, like it's like sponge sugar.
Oh, okay.
You know, like you just like
a.
It doesn't even have to be like tapped and broken. It will literally just melt in humidity. That's how fragile it is. There's too much water in the air. Oh.
Your psyche is an ill-advised wedding cake.
Yes, it is. So keep it dry, guys. Keep it dry. Keep it cool. Keep it nice, and I'll be fine.
You can say anything you want about me, guys. I don't care.
All right, so we will see you next week with 2. Freedom 2.
Dos.
New chapters. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.